Today we're talking about what it means to be the CEO of your own music business. You might be thinking, what does being an indie artist have to do with running a business? So, one thing that I love about my partner, my business partner, Jeremy, is that he is a true
Oh,
entrepreneur.
thanks, man.
And so I want to hear you
Yeah,
kind of explain what that means to you and why it matters
yeah, right.
to an indie artist.
In episode 1, I said, one of the downfalls that I had being in the music industry was not understanding that I needed to run my music business. I handed that over to a label, and the label did their thing, and they're really pretty good at knowing the business of music. That's what they're supposed to do, right? But I didn't have a pulse on where the money was going, what was being spent on what, and in the end, it led to me being dropped from the label and then not knowing what to do with the business side of things. Like, what do I do next? Like, how do I move forward? So
Right.
it was a huge thing for me then to go, I need to know business. And I was already an entrepreneurial mindset. I was already doing some entrepreneurial things or business things on the side, but I was just wanting somebody else to run that for me so I could be the artist.
Right. Right.
And so in today's age with so much music coming out, there's no barrier to entry. We all can do this, right, guys?
Right.
We can all be a musician and put music out there. There's no more gatekeepers. We can just go do it. What we run into then is, well, I need somebody to help me, or how do I do this, or where do I go next? So, what happens in business, when you start a business, you have to be able to understand how to put things in order and what to do next.
Yeah, that is like I want you to continue to dig deeper in
Yeah,
like what is this entrepreneurial mindset? But
right.
I like in this moment you said something that really popped out to me, and that is like every artist has a choice.
Yes.
You can be
Mhm.
happened to or you can happen,
Right.
right? So if you are truly going to do this thing and do it well,
Yeah.
the only way to happen and not feel happened to
Yeah.
or have a victim mentality,
Right.
right, is to actually take on an
Come
entrepreneurial
on.
mindset,
That's exactly right.
right?
Because what are we looking for? Who wants to go viral? Who wants to just put out a music and 20,000
Right.
people download it? Yes. Or we get 100,000 streams. Awesome. That's what's going to happen. I just know it. My music is that good. I just know people are going to take notice of me. I just know I'm going to put out this video and it's going to go viral. It didn't.
Every single artist thinks this, by the way.
I've, I've
We
been
all
caught
think
in
we're
that.
the exception.
Right. Right. And that may happen one of 100th or a millionth of a percent to somebody that something like that happens accidentally. Something happens. The true the true litmus test of things growing is the work that you put into it,
That's good.
right? So, back to entrepreneurial mindset or business mindset. There are a few layers here, and let's just start with business. Creating a business means that I have to know what is going on across all the things. But it also always starts with a belief.
Mm.
It's a mindset thing. So to really in psychology, there's a really cool cycle about how things get done, reasoned and action outcome theory, and it says that your experience dictates your belief, which dictates your actions, which dictates the outcome. And so, and then it goes back to your, well, then you did that experience.
Wow. Okay. I'm having my own epiphany here.
Yeah.
So, if your experience dictates your belief dictates your
Action, what
action,
you're going to do next.
and then that determines what's
That's
happening.
exactly right.
If you constantly feel happened to
Right.
because something maybe has happened to you,
Right.
right?
Your experience.
And then and your experience is victim,
Yes.
then you're going to create a self-sabotaging
That
situation,
is exactly right.
right?
That is exactly right.
Wow.
So if we want to really have a different outcome, we have to change our belief. And that does not have to do with our experience. We can learn and should learn from our experiences, but if we don't dictate what our belief is or what's happening next, then we will never get the outcome that we really want.
So what belief does an artist need to have
Yeah.
that characterizes an entrepreneurial mindset?
Awesome. You have to start saying, I am the CEO of my music business. I have a music business that I need to steward well. And so when you start saying, "Oh, I'm just an artist. I'm just an artist. I'm an artist. I'm an artist." Yes, of course you are.
Right.
But you're also the marketing person.
Mm,
You're also the content creator.
right.
You're also the publicist. You're
Mhm.
also the publisher.
Yeah.
You're all these things in your
Right.
music business to begin with, and
Right.
you have to start thinking about all the things that happen next with those things combined.
Yeah.
So the mindset has to start to be, I am a business owner. So most of you, I'd say, okay, who has an LLC for their business, music business? And people are like, an LLC? That is a business thing. Who has a DBA for their music
Right.
business? That's just separating who you are from the business entity. Very small thing. That's like 101 level, man.
Mhm.
And most artists would be like, oh, I never thought about or having a separate bank account for your music stuff.
Right.
Like the simple things of business. So, what do you have to do? Number one, you guys, is start telling yourself and saying out loud, I am a business owner. I run my music business. If you start saying that to you, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to be. Because when I started saying that, it changed so much. And a level up from that is entrepreneur. An entrepreneur has multiple businesses and multiple things going on. They create things out of nothing, which business owners kind of do that too. They create things out of nothing. But we won't quite go to entrepreneurial mindset because that's more like I have multiple businesses going on, doing multiple things. But let's start with business owner.
Yeah, I think taking ownership
That's the word.
is really when I think entrepreneur for an artist,
Yeah.
I think, okay, the the new level, the new standard that I have is taking ownership.
Let's go.
So if I'm not going to feel happened to anymore,
Yes.
then
Right.
it is on me
Yeah.
to understand how to do this well. It's not going to be anybody else's fault.
That's right. And the second thing, so the fear aspect comes in when
Right.
we don't either know what to do next or something has happened to us when we've partnered with somebody and they've taken advantage of us or taken our money or they didn't do what they said they were going to do, all those things. But if you're the business person, you're getting, advice from other people about, hey, is this the right person to partner with? Not just they're going to make me a star or they're going to do all this stuff for me. No, no, no. You're thinking as a business owner going, do I want to partner with? Is the character there? What have they done in the past? I'm going to do my research around them and who they are and talk to other artists that have worked with them before I go, yeah, let's work together. So now you're taking responsibility.
Right. And I think one characteristic of successful entrepreneurs that I notice that I'm learning how to incorporate myself
Mhm.
is you fail forward, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So instead of feeling happened to all the time, you're willing to fail,
It's totally
knowing that
fine.
that's actually just the thing that teaches you what you need to do next and then how to do it well and
It,
do it better than you did last time.
as long as you can stay out of the victim
Right.
mentality and not feel have because sometimes we do get used by somebody. It happens, guys. And let me just say, it doesn't feel good, but it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Dust yourself off and learn from it, but don't let that stop you doing what you know you're supposed to do in life with music.
Right.
Like, don't let it be the barrier now so that, well, I can't use any publicist because that person took $2,000 and didn't do a thing for me.
Right.
Like, bummer. Like, that's a real big bummer. But did you create a list of things and goals to do, some KPIs about how we're going to work this? Did you get information? Did you have weekly meetings? Did you do all the things that you should do as the entrepreneur, as
Right.
the business owner?
Right.
Oh gosh, you got to raise a hand and go, what have I not done?
Yeah, I think the lie is, and we've talked about this before if you've listened to any of the other episodes, The lie is I'm a creative, so I
That's right.
don't need to do this,
Right.
or I'm not gifted in those things. Well, you better learn how to get gifted in them because it's not
That's what we're
anybody
here
else's
for, man.
fault, right?
That's what
Like
we're doing here.
you may be administrative, you may not be, but you
Yeah,
still have to pay your bills every month.
that's
You
right.
still have to balance, well, nobody uses a checkbook anymore, but like
Well, yeah,
you
but look at
gotta
your
look
know
at
where
your
your
bank
money's
account and know where your money's
going.
going.
Yeah,
Like it's no different. It's called adulting, and we all need to grow up a little bit as artists in our own business. And
love it.
so taking ownership, I think, is a big part of that.
It's
But
great.
specifically, how do you practically apply that to
Yeah,
music business,
yeah,
right?
mm,
So,
it's good.
and you mentioned it a little bit, but I'd like to dive in deep now and tell you, like, you as the entrepreneur, as the business owner of your music business, you carry multiple hats. You wear multiple hats
Right.
and you are sitting in multiple
That's
roles.
right.
Okay? So you are not just the writer,
Hmm.
you're not just the artist, you're also the publisher and you're also the label.
Right.
Within publishing, there are multiple roles that a normal publisher would fulfill. There's a creative director. That person is overseeing setting up song rights with other collaborators, other writers, right? They're picking time, they're picking place, they've got a calendar. They're thinking strategically on behalf of a writer. Who should this writer write with? Who should they collaborate with?
Hmm.
Are they writing for another artist? Are they writing for themselves? Or is this a duet, a feature? All of these things
Yeah.
are going through the mind of a creative director in a publishing company, right?
Hmm.
They are also a royalty administrator.
Right.
They're managing the royalties of the writer, and
Hmm.
they're also making sure that those songs are registered correctly. They understand what metadata is, they understand how the money flows, and then they manage that money for themselves and for the writers they represent.
Hmm.
When you are independent, you fulfill all of those roles. So it's your job to take ownership of what that means and what that looks like for
Right.
you,
That's exactly right.
right? And that a big part of that is education. It
Mm.
is educating yourself on how does this work,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
If you're going to do this thing, you need to know how it works.
Or the opposite of that is you don't do these things, and guess what? You stay exactly where you are,
Right.
and you stay exactly where you are. You may have a little bump, but then you stay exactly where you are. We want to see you grow. We really, really do. There's plenty of opportunity out there for everybody, and the disparity between the have and the haves and the have-nots in the music industry or the music business right now is super clear.
Yeah.
Like, where's the blue collar working class musician?
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're hoping you'll get some of this stuff and go, yeah, like I'm going to be a music entrepreneur. I'm going to be a business owner in music. What about record labels?
Yeah, that's definitely the other part of it, right?
Right.
So we're great at writing, recording, and releasing music.
Yeah.
And it's really understanding that you're not just the creator,
Right.
whether it's the writer side or the artist side, right? On the label side, the label is the entity that owns the sound recording because they pay for it.
Right.
Well, if you are creating your own sound recording and
Guess
you're
what?
paying for it, guess what? You're the label,
You're it.
right? So, as the label, it's your job to understand how distribution works,
Yep.
what your distribution options are, if you're distributing yourself.
Well, but isn't there just DistroKid, and isn't
Maybe.
there just what else is there?
So, you can use those platforms like DistroKid. Those
Yep.
are called aggregators,
Aggregators, right?
right? And those are great options for an independent artist. But you may have some connections
Hmm.
where you could actually have you could stay independent but have a distribution deal with a label.
Why does that matter?
A lot of times, a label has resources and a network that you don't have.
Right.
They may be able to playlist pitch to curators that you couldn't on your own,
That's
right?
exactly right.
Or they have marketing dollars to support your song
Mhm.
going further than it would if you did it on your own. So
And there are
those
those
are
middle class. There's a
exactly.
middle class of distributors now too that aren't quite the self-serve, you're doing it all yourself type of thing, but they have connections within with playlisters and some other things that can help you move a little bit further too.
Yes.
And that's something that we do at the Indie Friend is we give you those resources. We help you see, hey, there's some other options out here, and we connect you with those resources.
We can like plug you into those.
That's right.
Obviously, we're not trying to be a distributor
No,
ourselves.
but we can be a friend for you
but
and
the-
make the connection.
Right. The point is whether you're independent, whether you are distributing on your own through an aggregator or you have a distribution deal, it's your job to understand
Totally.
what goes into a distribution deal. Like, what should I know
Hmm.
to have a good deal?
Right.
What should I know to avoid a bad one?
Right.
Right. How will this affect me when I release my music?
Right.
So you're the label. You are the artist. You might even be your own producer.
Right.
Right.
Totally.
You are your own A&R.
A&R.
Right? Like you are choosing the songs
Mhm.
for your project. You are overseeing your sound, what your sound is like. You're overseeing your brand, your visuals, everything. You're doing all of that, right?
Right.
You're the production manager. You're overseeing your own timeline. If you work with a distribution partner versus an aggregator, they may be helping you speak into when your songs would best be served and when they would best be released,
Oh, let me
right?
stop really quick. Get the aggregators here at the bottom level, partners in the middle, and also with labels is more of a partnership as well.
Right.
I just want to point that out.
You hope. You hope it feels like a
It
partnership.
should be, and it
Right.
can be
Yeah.
if you work hard
Yeah.
at it. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, less and less do you see these massive 360 deals
Totally.
where they
Yeah.
own your entire life.
Yeah,
But
you don't want that.
yeah, you definitely don't. But the point is, you need to understand that when you go indie, it sounds great, but you may not realize all of the hats you're meant to wear,
Right.
all of the things you're supposed to figure out on your own.
Mhm.
It is an uphill climb.
It is. It's
For
a lot.
sure.
For sure.
So, but and on both sides, publishing and label, you have to take into account things like legal contracts, negotiations with co-writers, with an outside producer. If you didn't produce on your own, do you understand what an industry standard might be for you as an independent artist? Like these are all things to think about when you are the entrepreneur of your own music business, the CEO of your own music business.
Exactly. So, in other words, you are again the CEO of your own music business. I don't know. When he said, you have to think legal and you have to think contracts, Robbie, when you said that, I was just like thinking, as an artist, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have contracts. I'd love to have that problem where people are wanting to partner with me to help move my music forward. But to get to that level, even, you have to do some of the other baseline things. It's what my really good friend Ben would call the aggregation of marginal gains.
Tell me a little more about that.
So a small gain leads to another small gain, leads to another small gain. This may be a little overwhelming as we're talking about all the things that you are as an artist and owning your own music business. But here's the deal. Just start at the beginning. Like, where are you right now in the process of writing? Do you have enough songs? You should have at least 20 to 30 songs written before you start to decide what you're going to record for the project. Making those decisions first, just start small, right where you're at. What is the look? What do you really want it to look like? What does this project really feel like? Those questions are small questions that you can begin to ask yourself to put you in the position to do the next gain, which could be, after this is out, I need to find a distributor. What does that look like? And you start to do the work of an entrepreneur, a CEO, and start to do the research. Research, research, research.
Yeah, educating yourself is so important and realizing what resources are out there. One thing that happens a lot of times when I'm consulting someone with the indie friend is they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Right? So a lot of artists, for example, will put out their songs. They'll use DistroKid or they'll use all these platforms. And then from those platforms, they are paying their co-writers from their distribution platform. But they don't realize that distribution platform is paying them the sound recording income, not the compositional income.
Right.
And if you don't know the difference between the sound recording and the publishing income, you're going to pay the wrong people the wrong money.
Right.
And it happens all
All the
the
time.
time.
Yeah.
So being educated and starting to learn what you don't know is going to give you such a leg up as an entrepreneur and a CEO of your own music business. But these are the things, if you feel a little overwhelmed right now, good.
Yeah.
And here's why. Here's why that's good. Nothing that is easy from a creative standpoint
Mhm.
is worth chasing,
Wow.
right? Like
And we
if
can all go push go on AI right now and create a song.
right, right,
And that's easy.
right.
But
But
is
there's a wrestle. There's a
yeah,
wrestle that
totally.
comes with
Love it.
it does your wrestle artists does not end with your creative work. Okay? That is such an important thing to realize.
So good.
The wrestle continues. Like you're meant to push against a boulder because eventually you become really strong and then that boulder may never move.
Yeah.
But the other rocks that you push against that you never would have been able to push out of the way, all of a sudden you're able to push out of the way.
Right on.
Right?
Yeah.
So the wrestle doesn't end when you're done writing the songs or when you've recorded the songs or when you've put out the songs.
Yeah.
The wrestle continues, right? Because if there's validity in writing and recording and releasing the music,
Mhm.
there's validity in talking about it being out.
Yeah.
There's validity in understanding how do I communicate this to the world,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So all of those things take an entrepreneurial mindset,
Yeah.
right?
And a true entrepreneur is a creative, you guys. A
Right.
true entrepreneur is creating something out of nothing. So, one of the mindset things you can begin to shift for yourself, number one, here's a big takeaway again, is start to say to yourself, I am a business owner. I own my music business. You begin to say that, it becomes true in your life. But number two, all the things of this music business are also creative.
Right.
Like, you can start to look at social media as a creative endeavor where you're getting your voice out about what's happening in your music business and in your through music to as many people as will listen.
Right.
Like, how cool is that? We live in this time. I mean, that's stinking amazing, man.
Right.
I didn't have that when I was on a record label. Like, I had to rely on a marketing channel and to rely on a PR company, Nashville
Right.
Publicity, to get things out and have things moving because there just wasn't. There was MySpace, but I was posting on MySpace and I was connecting with people there and I was growing my business the way I knew how at that point. Point being is that it's a creative endeavor for you. You can make it creative.
Right. I think something also to realize is, and we talked about this um, off the recording,
Hmm.
but I think another distinction to help get us into the right mindset is understanding the difference between working on your business and
Oh,
in
so
your
good.
business.
Mhm.
I feel like the creative aspect is when you're working on your business, right?
Mm.
Because, like, love him or hate him, Steve Jobs was a creative,
Right.
right? Love him or hate him, Elon Musk is a
The creative.
creative,
Right.
right? They are overseeing massive, you know, movements and
Yeah.
massive companies, right?
Mm.
That are changing the world.
You're right.
If you want your art to change the world, you have to be a visionary.
Yeah.
You have to have a mission beyond happening with your music.
And that's why, like in coaching, if I'm working with an artist or my own artist that I'm managing right now, way at the beginning, we started with the vision for where you're going,
Right.
the mission and how you're going to do it, and the core values that you're going to keep in constant contact with,
Right.
so that you don't go out of your moral stance, or you just know these are unwavering principles that I'm going to stay connected to while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because if you're not living that out, it's easy to see where you're veering off course
Right.
when you start doing things, or like there's opportunities, or else you'll just be chasing all the trends, chasing whatever the other people are doing and not be truly authentic to yourself.
Right. Well, and you may find that a certain trend actually is on brand for you.
And that's totally
but
cool.
but you will have done the work
Right. Yep.
of knowing what is authentically you and what's not, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a few things we've actually touched on these, but I'd like to take a moment to point out specifically
Yeah.
practical ways to
Mm.
be the CEO of your own music business,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
The first we've talked about it is educating yourself in music business.
That's good, man.
Understanding songwriting, understanding royalties, understanding publishing, understanding distribution and label and
Mhm.
industry standards for rates with all the different types of people
Absolutely.
you may be working with within your music business, right?
Mhm.
But the other one that's really important is create your own mission, vision, and values.
Love it.
If you don't have this written down, go
Do
research
it
what is the difference
now,
between a
right.
mission and a vision,
Mhm.
right? Write down your mission and vision. And what it's going to help you do is articulate your why.
That's right.
When you can articulate your why, when you start having to do things outside of what you consider your strength, you'll be able to do it and you'll have the motivation to do it because you remember your why,
That's right.
right? So
That's
you
great.
may hate looking at a royalty statement and trying to figure out what is this thing. But when you remember your why, like I want to influence culture with my music and this is just
That's so
part of it,
good. Yeah.
right? Then you will be able to look at that statement and have the mindset that it takes to figure it out
Yeah.
versus looking at it and just as we artists do, the first thing we do before we even think is feel,
Right.
right? So we look at something, we have a feeling about it, and we shut down,
Right.
right? We look at having to negotiate a contract, we get a feeling about it, and we shut down.
Right.
But
Right.
when you allow your why to inform your feelings
Yeah.
and you can articulate your why,
Mhm.
then you will be so surprised at what you can accomplish as the CEO of your own music business.
Because you've made your decision, I'm going to be the CEO of my
Right.
music business. I know my why, and this is the work I have to do. Now, granted, do the work in the right order. In other words, like if you work really well late at night and like you get energy and
Right.
that's when you do the work that's
Know
harder
your
for you.
rhythms.
Yeah, know your rhythms.
Yeah.
And again, I'll just throw this in here. If you're not reading business books, start reading business books. The E Myth,
Great
you
one.
that's just a phenomenal book about how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a business owner. There's so many. Start with Why, Simon Sinek. There's so many great business books out there to get you rolling. Um, but the whole idea of like find your rhythm and know how you work is important because you don't want to do things that take a lot of your energy when you don't have energy.
Right.
So I'm a morning person. I know I'm weirdo. Like I love to get up and just like kick butt at things in the morning. That's just kind of how I roll now, and because of kids and life and all that stuff. And I love it, but I do the harder work first. Like balance my checkbook or balance my business checkbook or get into QuickBooks and delineate what's going on. Why? Because I know that's harder for me to do. And then later on the day, like in the afternoon, man, I'll go create. Like I'll get my guitar out and I'll start creating music.
Yeah. So I think with ownership, some of this stuff may not be your strength, and you may decide this isn't for me,
Mm,
right? That's just as valuable because
that's
you've just
great.
saved yourself a lot of time.
Mhm.
But as the CEO of your own music business, if your strength isn't these things and you do have the resources, then a CEO goes and hires it out.
That's right.
But they understand enough about the business to not make a bad hire.
That's right.
They understand enough
That's
about the
good.
business to put the right person in the right spot, right?
So good.
So when you start building a team around yourself, whether it's a marketing company or a creative development company or a manager or all the different types of professionals you may want to build around you, to build a team around you, you still are the CEO, even though you are abdicating some of the responsibilities of your business. You have to understand what they do and why they do it, right? To truly run your music business well. Even if you decided to sign with a label,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
You need to understand what the label does and why they do it,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
You're still the CEO in that scenario.
That's good.
So, another thing to think about is keeping the main thing the main thing. When you're an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur is always looking ahead, right? They're always figuring out their next step, but it's through the filter of their why. It's
Mhm.
through the filter of their mission and vision,
Right.
right? So it may make sense to work on the spreadsheet once a week, right?
Yeah.
But
Totally.
you're remembering your why,
Yep.
right? You don't want it to suck all of your creative energy when
Mhm.
you could be creating, right? Um, but and then there's developing your craft consistently,
Mhm.
right? Like a CEO of a music business realizes my moneymaker is in my playing or my singing or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So it's important that you're investing in the
Totally.
areas
Yeah.
of your business,
Mhm.
right, that are going to bring value to the people that you want to hear it. So whether it's voice lessons, lyrics, musicianship, like all the things, like read books on songwriting,
Yeah.
like network with people that are further along than you, right? This
Mhm.
is everything a CEO would do in their own companies.
Yeah.
I have found that while a lot of CEOs have a certain level of maybe even narcissism or like,
Mhm.
but there's still this curiosity. They're always
Constantly learning.
curious,
Constantly
right?
learning. Yeah.
And they're willing to learn from others,
Mhm.
right? So
Absolutely.
like always be willing to put on the learning hat and really like humble yourself enough to truly learn from people who've gone further than you,
Totally.
right?
Love it.
Set yourself up for success.
Mhm.
Um like I would just say you guys to encourage you like educate yourself. If you want to grow in these areas, educate yourself.
Yeah.
It's actually why we created the Music Business
Yep.
101 course
Right.
with the Indie Friend, because we just education. It's not the whole picture,
Right.
but it's a really big missing piece
Mm.
because independent music has come on the scene so quickly,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of us are able to put out music and not fully understand how it all works. If you understand how it works, it's going to remove a lot of that fear that we've been
That's
talking about,
exactly right.
right?
So
And
good.
help you make wise and better decisions.
Mhm.
Um, in that course, we're also offering monthly live Q&As.
Yeah.
So if you're a member of that, then you're getting access to us directly
Right.
to ask real questions.
Right.
Why did my registration not go through?
Yeah.
Why does my statement say this? How
Mhm.
do I talk to my producer if he's wanting more money than I have to give?
Right.
Right?
That's a real one.
These are all
Uh-huh.
questions that you'll probably be asking
Mhm.
and a CEO would ask,
Right.
right? I have a friend who is a CEO and he literally will go on X and ask other CEOs questions.
Mm.
Just be like, "Hey, without getting into details, here's the issues I'm facing. What should I do?"
Mm.
And literally has changed and turned around businesses that he's run by creating opportunity to connect directly with
That's great.
people.
Yeah.
So we're trying to give that opportunity as well, even beyond the podcast.
So
So
good. So good, man. Well, we're so glad you joined us
yeah.
today. I mean, honestly, we really are. We're going to talk more. We're going to have some interviews coming up in the next few weeks and months with industry insiders, people who work in marketing, people who have toured most of their life. We're going to be talking with people that understand how this thing actually rolls. So excited to roll that out.
Yes, and we're not only going to talk about the technical business side of things.
Right.
We're going to have some amazing creatives on this podcast as well in
Totally.
upcoming
Mhm.
episodes that are going to dive into their creative process for writing or
Mhm.
producing or
Yeah.
managing all of it.
All
So
of it.
stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and
Yes.
subscribe and follow and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Been looking for a breakthrough, trying our best to make